Kiss the good life. Kiss the good life. Good. Kiss the good life.
Alright, so this is the first episode of my poker vlog. I'm on my way to San Manuel Casino, and the first order of business will be to get some drone footage from the rooftop level of their parking structure. It's a Native American property, so if I manage to do that without getting shot or my head cut off or something, then the run good is, already starting. So let's head over and see how it goes. I'll see you guys in there. All right, so wrapping up a session here at San Manuel. It was pretty short, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours tops. I wanted to get out today. I had some other stuff I had to get to, but there were still a few interesting spots that we can go over. And I also wanted to cover some hands that happened my last session here, which was Monday the 18th. So let's start with that session. I'm playing 1-3 in for 300, and in the first hand there are 3 limpers to me. I'm in the hijack with Queen 10 of diamonds. So I raise to 25, and now the button thinks about it for a bit. He makes the call. He has about 200 behind. Folds back to the first limper, and he decides to go all in for his remaining $50 or $55. It was just enough to reopen the action when it folds back to me. I have Queen 10 of diamonds. I don't want to go 3 ways, and I'd rather just get heads up with a limper and all the dead money in there. So I make it 200, and I'm expecting the button to fold almost his entire range, but he goes in the tank and makes the call. So my plan does not work. I pretty much fucked that up. So now I have $225 in the middle with Queen 10 of diamonds going 3 ways. Fuck yeah. So, and then the button shows pocket aces. So, not looking good. The limper flips over his cards. He has pocket 9s. So we're looking for a miracle here. We're trying to crack aces, and sure enough, it comes Queen 10 brick. So we crack aces and collect that pot. A little bit embarrassing to start this vlog off with that hand in particular, but we've all been there on the other side of that, and it's just how it goes sometimes. About an orbit later, I pick up Queen Jack of clubs on the button. There's an under the gun open to 15. The hijack calls, and I make the call. We go 3 ways to a flop. It comes Jack 8-8 with 1 club. The original better continues for 15. Pretty weak sizing. Still not looking to put in a raise, and after the cutoff calls, I also make the call. The turn is a 9, and now the under the gun checks, and the cutoff puts in a bet for 15. So really small sizing. I put him pretty squarely on 10-9 here with his continuation on the flop and then a probing type bet on the turn. It doesn't look too strong. I elect to 3-bet to 55. The under the gun player now folds, and the cutoff's actually my buddy. He kind of tanks there for a bit, says that he thinks I'm making a play at him, but eventually he folds, and he said he had 10-9. So I told him I had a jack, and you know, we scooped that pot, and it feels good to read the situation accurately. All right, in the next interesting hand, I have 8-7 of clubs in the cutoff. There's 4 limps ahead of me. I elect to limp along, and the small blind completes. So we're going 5 or 6 ways to a flop, which comes Jack 9-5 with 1 club. So we pick up the double gutter and backdoor flush draw. The small blind elects to lead out for 12. There's 2 callers. I decide to call. The turn is a 5 of clubs, so now we pick up a flush draw to go along with our double gutter. I think I want to put in a raise when the small blind leads out for, I want to say $20. It was a very small bet relative to the pot size. There's 1 caller in between, and I think he most likely has a weak Jack X type of holding, maybe a 9, and I don't think those hands could hang on to if we apply some pressure. So I make it 85 to go. The small blind now thinks about it for a bit and decides to make the call. He has about 190 or 200 behind, I think. And now the middle player gets out of the way. So we're going heads up to a river, which I'm planning on just going with. But luckily we don't have to do that. It's the king of clubs. So we back into a flush. He checks. And now it's a question of, do I want to bet small and get a crying call, or just polarize the shit out of it and just go all in, put him in a tough spot, and hopefully he makes a mistake. He had shown some tendencies to call pretty light, and I don't think he's thinking too deeply about the game. I decided to just go for the throw. I go all in, and he goes pretty deep into the tank. The problem with the king of clubs on the river is all of his Jack X is going to have an easier time folding now. If the cards were reversed, if the king had been on the flop and the Jack had been on the river, I was talking to a friend of mine, he said it makes a lot more sense to shove that because now he still has top pair. But with such a high club on the river, I think maybe my shove is a little ambitious, but I don't think it's a major mistake. Anyway, he goes in the tank, probably 4 or 5 minutes, really long time, and eventually someone else calls the clock on him. I typically in these spots just let players take their time, but someone else calls the clock and he folds in like the last 5 seconds. So obviously would have preferred a call. Not sure if a smaller bet would have been better in that spot, but happy to collect the pot anyway. All right, so this next hand is a fun one, to put it lightly. There's 5 limpers. I'm in the small blind with 5-4 of spades, and I complete. The big blind checks his option. Now the flop is king 9-3, all spades. So we flop a baby flush in a multi-way pot out of position. I elect to lead, hoping to get value from all king X and any type of holdings that might want to continue with a spade in their hand. I make it 25, and only the under the gun player calls, who is the player from the previous hand that had the clock called on him. He has, since that previous hand, shown that he is definitely not the strongest player. I've seen some questionable plays. So I'm happy to go heads up to the turn with him. The turn now comes a king of diamonds, which I think is a great card, seeing as most of his continuing range on the flop is either going to be a spade, just a naked spade, or a king. I elect to go for a check raise here. Pretty positive he's going to bet once I check to him. And sure enough, he obliges me. He leads out for 55. And now it's a question of, do I want to slow play or get all the money in? And I think for a bit, he has about 300 behind, I think, maybe 250. He's been getting pretty lucky against some of the other players. I decide I don't want any cards that could kill the action to come on the river. Also paired with the fact that I'm pretty sure he's getting tired of me putting him in tough spots. I think that's the best play. So I shove all in, I cover him, and he doesn't think about it for too long and makes the call. So that's good news. Even better news, he instantly flips over his cards and he has red pocket queens. I don't know what the fuck's going on, really. He just, I mean, it must have been 5 seconds and he put the money in. So we're in really good shape here, and the river comes the queen of spades. So yeah, that happened, and he gets up out of his chair and says, I knew I had it. So cool, you know, good hand. I kind of just laugh it off, and the whole table starts to kind of give him shit for the call, and I don't really like that, you know. I think he should feel good about it and not go anywhere, you know, but it is what it is. Obviously I'd rather scoop that, but couldn't make it happen this time. So in this next hand, there's a limper from early position, the button limps, and I'm on the big blind with queen jack offsuit. The initial limper is the player from the previous hand, so looking to mix it up with him. Obviously he does not fold, so I'd rather just navigate post flop and not try to isolate him with queen jack off. I check my option and it comes queen 10-7 rainbow. I check, he bets 15, the button folds, and I elect to call. The turn is another 7, so queen 10-7-7. Actually a good card. I mean, against this guy, the fuck? Against this guy, I don't really know what's a good card and what's not, but it reduces his possibilities of having a set of 7s. So I check, planning to call, and sure enough, he puts out $25. I quickly make the call. Now the river is a offsuit 4, so we have queen 10-7-7-4. I check, and now he bets 40. So I think against almost all players, this is a fold, because he should never be betting 3 streets with anything worse than queen jack. And I think it's pretty obvious I have a queen given how I've played the hand. But then I remember this fucking guy called me with red pocket queen. Anyway, so I just make the call and he announces king high. So all right, so the last hand before leaving, I pick up pocket 10s under the gun and I open to $20. The button makes the call and the blinds fold, so we go heads up to a flop. It comes 10-8-3 with 2 spades, so we flop top set out of position against a fairly loose opponent. I like to c-bet for 35, and he pretty quickly makes the call. The turn is an offsuit 4. I continue for $75. I think I could size up a little bit here. I'm not sure that's a huge deal, but I bet 75 and he quickly makes the call. Obviously prefer to not see a spade river, but there's also a lot of cards that I think he will use as scare cards once I check to him. So the river comes with jack of spades. I check and he bets 130. Yeah, so pretty ugly spot. I think it's a bit too weak to just let it go, so maybe it's a fold, but I like to call, and he shows us king 5 of spades or something. It was a king high flush, so he gets there on the river and gets paid. So that was a bit of a damper to end the session on, but regardless, we book a small win, I think of $150 or something. So that was the session from Monday. Today is Saturday, and I just finished up this quick session. I got some hands from today as well, so let's go over those real quick. All right, so when I get there, they're opening a new game for 1-3, and I decide to sit in the 7 seat. solid player sits on my right in the 6th seat. He and I have played together a few times. He knows I'm a decent player. I know he's a good player. And he kind of looks over at me and just nonchalantly picks his shit up and moves over to the 8th seat to be on my left. So, fucking rub me wrong, all right? So, obviously, target acquired. I'm going after this guy if I get a chance. And sure enough, within the first orbit, he opens under the gun. I'm in the big blind. He opens to 15. He gets like 3 or 4 callers, and now I'm in the big blind with ace of clubs, 6 of spades. So I'm sure you guys have heard of a little thing called blockers, where people overvalue their hand and then punt a bunch of money off. That's the play I'm going for. So I 3-bet to 110 from the big blind. He thinks about it for a bit on my left, and he makes the call. So everyone else folds. We go heads up to a flop of 6, 7, 5 with 2 clubs. I down bet to 55, pretty tiny bet. I'm sure he's capped at 1 pair tops here, given the line he's taken. So my plan is to bet small on the flop, and he should fold all his ace highs, king highs in this spot. And if he has a pair, I'm just gonna make him fold it on the turn. So he thinks about it for a bit and makes the call. The turn is a good turn. We pick up the nut flush draw on the 4 of clubs. So I ship it in here for around 160, and he thinks about it for a bit and folds face up. So that was the first hand. The next hand is also pretty interesting. There is a limper under the gun, and I isolate with queen 10 of diamonds. The button makes the call, and the first limper make the call. So we go 3 ways to a flop, which comes ace, 9, 8. Rainbow checks to me, and I c-bet for 25. The ace high board should really favor my range. Perhaps I'm worried the button could be calling with an ace, but it should mostly favor my range, and he should fold a lot of better hands here. Better than queen high, I mean. So I put in the c-bet for 25. He makes the call pretty quickly, and the original limper makes the fold. So we go heads up to a turn, which is another 8. I like to check, and he checks back. The river is a jack, and we just drill the gutter on the river. So I bet 35 now, and he goes pretty deep into the tank. I'm not sure what he has here. Maybe, I mean, I block 10s, maybe jacks that plays pretty passively, or a weak ace. But regardless, he makes the call, and when we show him the bad news, he seems pretty frustrated. So probably an ace of sorts, I'm not too sure. But yeah, we scoop that pot, and moving on to the next hand. Pretty fishy old dude raises to 6, so a min raise, gets 2 callers. I'm on the button with pocket 4s, and I make the call. And now the small blind, who is the same opponent from the first hand where he folded pocket jacks, he puts on the squeeze to 35. Original min raiser makes the call, and now I'm getting a good price to set mine, as well as maybe have some evil plans later on certain runouts. So I make the call for 29 more dollars. 3 ways to a flop, which comes queen, 10, 7, rainbow. Now the small blind checks on this flop, and the old guy in the middle checks, and it's on me. So the old guy had been playing pretty straightforward. I think he would bet a queen here all of the time, and the small blind should pretty much only be checking ace king, ace jack type hands and pocket queens that just crush the board. I think that is mostly his checking range on this spot. So when it checks to me, I want to put in a bet and get him off of ace highs and potentially take the pot down. So I elect to bet for $55, and he thinks about it for a bit and makes the call. pretty sure now he has ace king or ace jack perhaps. And now the guy in the middle, the old guy, he also makes the call, which I thought was a little interesting. Perhaps, I'm not sure, jack nine, he could have all sorts of tens, I guess. Seems a bit sticky if he has a 10, but anyway, I'm not going to try to think too hard about what that guy's doing. So we go 3 ways to the turn. The pot's getting pretty big now, and the turn is another queen. So small blind checks, old guy checks, and that's actually a good card because it eliminates the possibility of the small blind having a set of queens trying to trap. And the old guy would almost definitely be putting some money in the pot with trip queens here. So when it checks to me, I think I actually have the best hand, aside from maybe the old guy can have a pocket pair bigger than mine. But regardless, I think if I apply a good amount of pressure here, I can scoop the pot and deny all equity from the small blind and also get the old guy to fold almost all his holdings. So I ship it in here actually for around 300 effective. The small blind insta-mucks and the old guy folds pocket eights face up. So that one went according to plan, and we scooped that pot, fairly big pot, and after that I decided to just rack up and head home. Gonna try to edit these vlogs, which take way more time than I thought. So yeah, we were in for 300 and cash out for a little over 600 in about an hour and a half. So pretty good result for how short the session was. I'm gonna head home and edit this vlog. Also, my next episode will be a San Diego poker trip I just took with a few friends, and we tried a few different casinos in that area. So if you like this sort of content, go ahead and hit subscribe, like the video, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Yeah, in the front row, kicking back old school tracks like damn. Can't get enough of this mode, like I don't even know where I am. Ooh, baby, get hyped to the beat, let's go, cause this is our jam. This is our jam. Let's go. Let me break it down right quick for my haters, my dictators and bad raiders. Since you never seem to get it right no more, then right no more. Kick back your feet and watch your back from perpetrators. My game's strong in my Range Rover. I got the blackjack juice and my racks off the roof, and you see the SUV rolling up next to me, old enough to take you over Sesame. Remember, yeah, in the front row, kicking back old school tracks like damn. Can't get enough of this mode, like I don't even know where